So here we are at Brentford for the inaugural FIFA Champions Cup semi-final, and just behind me, in a couple of hours' time, Arsenal are going to play Moroccan side Asfar, who have won 12 of the last 13 Moroccan championships, also the current holders of the CAF Champions League, which is why they're participating here. And we had the first semi-final earlier today with Corinthians beating Gotham 1-0 and springing a little bit of a surprise. So the prize on offer this evening for Sunday at Emirates Stadium is a spot in the final against Corinthians, who are the current Copa Libertadores holders. And it's been really interesting seeing some of the build-up to this tournament. I think the fact that it comes in such a busy part of the WSL calendar when Arsenal are playing Manchester United and Chelsea, and they've got Manchester City soon as well, has kind of buried this a little bit. But I do think if Arsenal go through tonight, we'll get a little bit of build-up for the final on Sunday. And this is something quite new and I think quite exciting for women's football as well. I think given the power of South American football, of US football in women's football, finding ways to pit continents against one another is something I think that women's football should try to do more and more. There are questions of how you fit that into the calendar, because it's coming at a very busy part of Arsenal's season, whereas Gotham, for example, are in their off-season, so are Corinthians at the moment as well. So there's debates about where exactly to fit it in, but I think these sorts of things should happen more often and are really good for the growth of women's football. But Arsenal are going to be big favourites against Asfar tonight, although kind of very difficult to gauge the level because these kind of games just don't really happen often enough. But Arsenal will be expected, I think, to win this game, go through to the final, which will be on home turf on Sunday. If they don't win, they will go into the third place playoff earlier in the day on Sunday at Emirates Stadium, where they would play Gotham. But I think everyone here is hoping and maybe expecting a final against Corinthians on Sunday. But let's see.
So we're underway, and Arsenal have made 6 changes, which I more or less expected. Players like Laia Cadena, Victoria Pelova coming into the starting lineup. Our Asfar expert, Ali, says that Asfar are going to be playing a back 5. Looks like they're going to very much play in a low block, which is not how they usually play. So let's see how that plays out. So at 8 minutes in, and Arsenal have taken the lead. They get a corner, and Laia Cadena gets the first contact on the back post, as she so often does. And then Stina Blackstenius is on hand to just scramble it just about over the line. Arsenal lead 1-0 after 8-9 minutes. And Arsenal really will have wanted that just to calm some nerves and not allow, shall we say, a situation to develop. And we're 12 minutes in, and it's 2-0 to Arsenal. It's Frida Mornham, Lotte Wubben-Moy putting the ball over to Smilla Holmberg on the right-hand side. One of the things that Smilla Holmberg has really brought to this team is an ability to cross the ball, cross to the back post, which Olivia Smith holds up. Frida Mornham is on hand. They were queuing up, really. Stina Blackstenius was there. Olivia Smith was there, but Frida Mornham turns and volleys into the net. It's 2-0 nice and early, and this is exactly the sort of start Arsenal have wanted. And we're just over 20 minutes in, and Arsenal are 3-0 up with a penalty from Mariona. Taylor Hines put across to the back post, which Smilla Holmberg met with a side-footed volley, which deflected wide, and then the keeper saved. And initially it looked like it was going to be a corner, but there was a VAR check for handball. The referee went over to the screen. It was a handball. I think the player's arm was in an unnatural position and it stopped the ball going towards goal. Mariona steps up, puts it in the corner. 3-0, exactly what Arsenal will have wanted. 3-0 up. Pretty much game over at this point, and it's really a question of how many from here. So we're halfway through the half, and it's Arsenal 3, Asfar 0, and it was kind of difficult to know what to make of the opposition coming into this game. Just you'd expect that Arsenal would be very firm favourites, but obviously these kind of teams don't really play each other very often. It's very difficult to gauge the actual level. I think, as we saw when Corinthians played Gotham earlier, Asfar are in season as Arsenal are. However, it's not really been a contest so far. Arsenal have already had 5 shots on goal. They're 3-0 up, looking very, very comfortable. They've made a lot of changes as well. I think we can start thinking about the final on Sunday, which I think is going to be a very, very different game, because Corinthians are going to be very, very physical. They're going to get very, very close to Arsenal, I think, which Asfar haven't here, although Arsenal have just given the ball in front of their own area and allowed them to have a shot. But yeah, this kind of has the feel of a training game so far, and unless something goes drastically wrong, it will probably have that feeling throughout. Halfway through the first half, Arsenal 3, Asfar 0. And we're just coming up to half-time, and it's Arsenal 4, Asfar 0, and it's Olivia Smith this time. Ball through from Victoria Pelova. Smith coming in off that left flank onto her right foot, steps inside one defender, and then just drills it into the bottom corner nice and comfortably. And you know, the game had hit a bit of a lull before this. I think that kind of happens when effectively the game's over at 3-0. You know, the intensity goes down, but Arsenal have kicked up the gears again. Olivia Smith from the edge of the box, a bit of a trademark goal, 4-0 Arsenal.
So half-time here in Brentford, it's Arsenal 4, Asfar 0. I think it's very safe to say Arsenal are going to go to the final against Corinthians on Sunday. Exactly the sort of game they would have wanted, really. They got a couple of early goals, and from there it's kind of been a bit of a training game, to be honest. So Stina Blackstenius got a goal on 8 minutes, and then on 12 minutes, I think it was Frida Mornham who scored the second. Mariana Caldente with a penalty, and Olivia Smith from long range. Arsenal have rested some players as well. They've made 6 changes here. Big players on the bench that they probably don't have to bring on now if they don't want to, quite frankly. And I think given what happened earlier as well, with Corinthians bringing a bit of a surprise by beating Gotham, maybe that would have made some fans a little bit more anxious, but no need for it really. All of our kind of journalistic colleagues here, they've basically already written their match reports. I think Arsenal are going to go to the final on Sunday, and it would just be interesting to see in the second half, do they really put the foot down and try and score some more? I suspect they won't, and it will become what it's been really since about the 12th minute, which is a bit of a training game, to be honest. Half-time, Arsenal 4, Asfar 0.
So we are underway for the second half, and Arsenal have made a double change, perhaps unsurprisingly. Mariana and Beth Mead coming off, Kim Little and Caitlin Ford coming on. I imagine there was an element of pre-planning about that so that Arsenal could get some of their bigger players off and game share this one if the scoreline allowed it. And let's face it, the scoreline has very much allowed it here. So Beth Mead and Mariana going to get a half off here. Arsenal 4, Asfar 0. Looking for more in the second half. So now it's Arsenal 5, Asfar 0, and Arsenal brought on Alessia Russo, as well as Katie McCabe a little bit earlier. And it's Russo that's made it 5-0. Frida Mornham collecting the ball inside the box. Her shot saved. Russo takes a touch from the rebound, puts it into the far corner. Arsenal are 5-0 up. I think we're probably going to see some minutes for Chloe Kelly for the first time in a couple of months as well here, probably in the last 15 minutes or so. But this game, you know, as far as still being very physical, still giving it their all, still playing with a lot of intensity, but Arsenal really just kind of going through them at will, going through the gears at will. They had a couple of chances, forced a couple of saves from the goalkeeper, and particularly Frida Mornham, but it's 5-0. And again, it's just a case of how many from here. And now it's Arsenal 6, Asfar 0, and Alessia Russo has her second, having just come off the bench. Ball down the left-hand channel by Victoria Pelova, and Alessia Russo races onto it, cuts inside and puts it in the far corner. Quite easy, really. Very little kind of defensive resistance from Asfar, who I think have kind of run their race physically here. Technically, very, very good team. They've shown they can play and they can pass, but physically there's a significant gap between these teams, and that's really shown, in particularly with some of the players Arsenal are bringing off the bench here. 6-0 Arsenal, and Chloe Kelly has come on as well for the first time in 2 or 3 months since her knee injury, which is really, really positive for Arsenal because they're going to need her in the last few months of the season as well. 6-0.
So it finished here at Brentford, Arsenal 6, Asfar 0. Lovely night for Arsenal, really. They rested well. They made 6 changes. They rested some players. They got some players on towards the end. Frida Mornham got a goal. She hadn't scored since October. Alessia Russo came on and scored a couple. We saw Chloe Kelly return from her knee injury here. So a couple of early goals as well for Arsenal. Just made this quite an easy night's work for them, and just getting the confidence up as well, particularly because scoring goals has been such an issue for them of late. But it's going to be a very different game on Sunday when they play Corinthians at the Emirates. Corinthians are going to give it absolutely everything, just like they have today here, to beat Gotham. Any competition that pits them against an English team is going to mean the absolute world to them. They're going to be much more aggressive. I think the physical gap is not going to be as big, if any physical gap at all, as we saw tonight. I think we saw tonight Asfar have got some really good technical players, but the physical gap was very big. I don't think that's going to be the case on Sunday, and Corinthians will come in very, very aggressively, and they will really, really want to win. But Arsenal will still be favourites, particularly at home, and a really good opportunity to win a big piece of silverware and the inaugural FIFA Champions Cup. I just said to Alessia Russo and Renee Slakers, it's very difficult to do something unprecedented in Arsenal women's history, but they've got the chance on Sunday. Let's see if they're up to it.